Can you hear me? Okay. Any questions about yesterday's session? Any question about the till day sessions? Okay. Meanwhile, let me tell you some shortcuts. Okay. Any idea on the shortcuts to open the services, Windows services page? How can I go to Windows services now? Here. Any idea for any person, please? Let me tell you shortcuts. So first shortcut is when you click on this services.msc, you'll get directly, right? The other shortcut, suppose if you are in the computer management window, you can go from here also. Okay, so everybody will say, everybody will say like that. These are the this is actually. But if you have this one, if you have PowerShell and wants to open here, you can click on Start Process Services.msc. So if anybody asks you, these are the possible ways that you can open the services.msc. Okay. And if you ask me about the task manager, start process task mgr. This is one way. Okay. And the other way is if you click on Control Shift Escape, you'll get the task manager. Or the other possible way is if you need to click on Control Shift Alt Delete and then go to task manager. All of you clear about this one? Hope you got the shortcuts, right? The possible shortcuts to open the task manager and services manager. So today we are going to discuss about a couple of the softwares that we are going to use as part of our DevOps journey actually. So what exactly are those softwares? Discussion about tools that we are going to use. We are going to use as a DevOps engineer. So basically, the DevOps, before we are going to discuss about the tools, we need to get an idea about the DevOps engineer responsibilities basically. So what exactly are those DevOps engineer responsibilities? Major responsibilities will be dealing with the version control related activities. Second one is implement implement build management, implement release management, implement task tests management or test plan management, implement artifacts management. These are the primary responsibilities. So in the interview, the first question for you will be, in the interview, the first question will be Obviously, yesterday I told like about project responsibilities, project structure, project architecture, project operations, project life cycle, and those things, right? Those are by default. The next question in the interview will be what exactly the technologies or the tool set, tool stack or the tech stack. Tell me about the tools or tool stack or tech stack that you have used in your project. This is the first question. This is the next question. Then you need to know about one more thing here, like work tracking management or work item management. Okay, so obviously you need to tell them like what exactly those you have used. So first thing is when you're talking about work item management or work tracking management or work tracking management, you need to say them like that we have used Azure boards. The possible answer for this one is Jira boards. A project can be used any of these services. Okay, then they will be asking you about version control management or version control tools. You may say like I have used GitHub or I have used Bitbucket or I have used Source3 or I have used GitLab or I have used the possible like TFS Foundation Server, or we have more actually in the market. Okay, so but when you're talking about the version control tools, you need to remember two things here. First one is the version control mechanism, and the second one is the version control tool basically. So here the version control mechanism also called as version control system also, and version control tool. Version control system, version control tool are completely different. Version control system means the way how exactly version control will work. Version control tool means how exactly version control system will be executed through any channel. Like your Java is a programming language, but to develop the Java programs, you will use Eclipse IDE or NetBeans IDE or Notepad also, right? In the same way, your PowerShell PowerShell is a language, whereas you will be using PowerShell ISC to develop the scripts or Visual Studio Code to develop the scripts, and any other possible ways. So version control system or version control mechanism is a software. Not a software actually. It's a the is a process basically. How exactly the version control system will be reacting, how exactly the version control system will be behaving. But to operate it according to your requirement, to work with that logic, to work with this program, you need a medium, you need a platform, you need a tool that is called version control tool. So when you talk about the version control system or version control mechanism, you need to discuss about basically, in the interview they may ask you like how many types of version control system you have in the market or that you are aware. Then you have to say the answer is three types of version controls we have. Version control mechanisms or systems we have. And everybody will say like centralized version control, and the second one is distributed version control. The first answer would be this only. But there is another thing called local version control. The other thing is that whenever you don't have any kind of interaction with whenever you don't have any kind of interaction, or you're not using uh, communicating the changes or interacting the changes with the centralized or the distributed mode, that is only local version control, nothing but. Okay, so if somebody asks you what exactly the central version control, centralized version control, what exactly this distributed version control, we are going to discuss about all these uh, uh, differences in the coming classes. But if somebody asks you what are the examples for this one, is you can say like TFVC, which is also called as Team Foundation, yep, Team Foundation version control. If they ask you about the distributed version control example, you need to say Git. Okay, so local version control is like it's not completely implemented. I mean, the local version control doesn't have the complete properties or the capabilities. How exactly the distributed version control or the centralized version control will have basically. Suppose you have done something like this, and if you want to if you want to delete it, you can delete, and if you click on control it, you will get right. This is also a kind of version control capability only. Version control is like tracking the changes, tracking the actions, tracking the modifications, tracking the updates. Don't completely believe like that at the initial stages of the DevOps learning that Git or TFEC are the only version control systems available in the market. Before these two evolution, we have one more thing that is called local version control. But don't compare the local version control with the available version control system that we have in the market right now, like Git and the TFEC. The reason is the capabilities that the local version control has very less than compared to the other version control tools like distributed and centralized. Okay, so if you ask me version control tool, then we will be discussing about all these options basically: GitHub, Bitbucket, Sourcey, GitLab, TFS, and if you ask me about couple of more, I can select GitHub Enterprise, and this can be called as GitHub Personal or GitHub Community, whatever it is. So, except, I mean, if you ask me about what is the tool that will be used to implement this TFEC version control, then you need to answer like that. Tools used for this one is TFS, Team Foundation Server. And if you ask me about the what are the tools that will be used, or what are the softwares that you are going to use for this implementation of distributed version control, all other like GitHub Personal or GitHub Enterprise or Bitbucket or Source Tree or GitLab, and we have more actually, but I'm just limiting to a set here. Okay, this is about the version control basic information. I mean, we are going to discuss about what exactly the centralized version control, what exactly the distributed version control, how exactly those two differs, how exactly the changes on this on the category of these two functionality, how exactly the version control system is going to uh, execute its actions. We're going to discuss in the coming classes. Okay, so if they ask you like that, then you can say like that the other one is what we are going to use in our system is Azure repos. Azure repos also a kind of version control system only, I mean version control tool only. So if you ask me here, you can add Azure repos also, but you need to be having, you need to, I mean you're supposed to have a full clarity on that which kind of version control system that you're using in your project. Simple answer, either Git or TFVC, either centralized version control or distributed version control. That's it. Okay, then the question will come to you like that, uh, build management. What kind of tools that you are using as part of your project to manage the build management? So basically we have for the build management we'll be using MS build in case of .NET, or VS build in case of Azure, for .NET also, VS build also for .NET. Okay, in case of when you are executing the project related to Java, you'll be using Maven, or you can use Gradle, or you can use Ant also. I mean each build tool going to be used for different kind of programming language actually. MS build and VS build will be for .NET, Maven and Gradle will be for Java, and will be used for Python. To be honest, I didn't check the cross functionality whether Maven, Gradle, and Ant will work for Java and Python combined or not. I didn't check the cross functionality. Okay, so here one thing that you need to remember is build management. Build management is completely different. Sorry, not build management. When you talk about this one, yeah, build build tools or build management tools are completely different from continuous integration. Clear about DevOps stack. So why I'm telling this, build tools or build management tools are completely different from continuous integration tools. But before that, before to understand the discussion about the differences between these two, you need to know about build, what do you say, build management or continuous integration are same or not. Then if you ask me the same question, I will say never. Both are not same. Are you clear? If somebody is asking you, do you agree that build management tools or build management activities are also actions of the CI. No, never. CI actions or the build management actions are never same. Build management scope is completely different, whereas CI management scope is completely different. Let me tell you one thing here. Let me show you in the practical mode. So in this test project, okay, in this test project, I am going to create a pipeline. I'm using the classic editor as of now. I'm going to create a pipeline. So as part of the build tools, I told you like VS build, right? So this is the VS build task, okay? But this pipeline should not be called as CI pipeline. This is called as build pipeline. Why this pipeline should not be called as CI pipeline? And in which case we call this pipeline as CI pipeline? In which case we call this pipeline as build pipeline? Okay, the purpose of the clarification actually resides here in the triggers. So whenever you have integrated or whenever you have implemented or whenever you have enabled this continuous integration option, then this pipeline is going to be set under, this pipeline is going to be set like that. This is a CI enabled build pipeline. CI enabled build pipeline. This is also called as continuous integration in the continuous integrated pipeline. So what I wanted to provide a clarification for you is the build tools or the build management tools are never ever equal to CI tools. But if you integrate, if you enable, or if you integrate CI trigger mechanism, CI trigger mechanism, then a build pipeline can be called as CI pipeline. This is called build tool. This is called build management tool, and this is called build pipeline. So if somebody asks you in the real time, what exactly CI tools? CI tools. That means the tools which will help to implement a continuous integration mechanism for the build management. Those are called CI tools. So example are Azure pipelines, Azure build pipelines, you can say Azure build pipelines, Jenkins, Octopus, etc. We have more in the market actually, but these are the most used in the projects. So if somebody asks you what are the build tools, you can say something like here in the tools you can say like web deploy. Web deploy also a kind of build tool only. Build tools are completely different from CI tools. CI tools is like implementing the continuous integration by using a pipeline concept. That is called CI tools. As build tools are used to compile the solution. The purpose of the build tools is just clearly like compile the solution. Let me provide the complete clarity here. Build tools are responsible for building the solution, building the solution or compiling the solution. That's it. Whereas CI tools are responsible for implementing continuous integration strategy with the help of the build tools for the efficient management of builds. That's it. All of you clear about the difference between build tools and CI tools? Build tools and CI tools are never ever the same. Build tools will be part of the CI tools. That's it. In order to achieve the target of the continuous integration mechanism. Somebody will say like that, I am using this build solution task, I'm using this Visual Studio build task, or I'm using this MS build task, or I'm using Maven, or I'm using Gradle, I'm using Ant. Those are called build tools only. Those cannot be called as CI tools. And at the same time, in some interviews, people will say like that, what kind of mechanism that you have used for build? If I ask, they will say like pipeline Jenkins, or they will say like Azure pipelines, or they will say like Azure build pipelines. No, those are CI tools. Those are not build tools. CI tools are completely different from build tools, and the activity are the yeah, and the activity or the scope of the build tools is lesser than when you compare with
Manikanda,
the CI tools.
Manikanda, I think we can say in different way, right? See, the continuous integration is something like it is a DevOps process where the developers continuously pushing their code to the some repository. That is a continuation integration, right? Basically, the build tools will come once the code has been pushed to the repository. Am I right?
uh, Not actually. I mean, let me tell you the life cycle of the DevOps actually. So customer will give the customer will give the requirement of the code, will give the requirement of the product, right? First, this is the first step. This is second step is developer will develop the code, and it will be pushed to a repository. And the third step is, with the help of the CI tool, this code will be executed. This code will be the code in the repo will be code in the repo will be code in the respective branch of the repo will be executed. Fourth step is an artifact will be generated after completion of the CI step. Fifth step is artifact will be copied or installed or executed on the target group of servers. Target group of servers or target environment. This is the life cycle of the this one. So, as Praveen said, the clear notification that I can give you here is build tools. We need to give the input to the build tools, or we need to give the input to the CI tools. Without input, there won't be execution. So what exactly the input would be? Input will be here the code that is part of a branch of the repo. Hope I'm clear. I think this is the one that you are
Yeah,
asking
yes,
about, right?
Manikanta. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you.
I
But
mean,
but
the reason why, yeah,
Manikanta, at the fourth step, so without build tools, we cannot generate any artifact, right?
yeah, without build tools you cannot generate. That's why in the CI tools, I mean, obviously CI tools will be of two types actually.
Mm-hmm.
CI tools will be of two types basically. So if you ask me about the category,
Okay.
with the aim to generate the artifact, or with the aim not to generate artifact.
Okay.
This is difference. Let me tell you. So this is a pipe. This is a CI pipeline. I mean, this is a build pipeline that I have created for the execution of the this one, like compiling the .NET solution that I have, right? And
Mm-hmm.
let me tell you something else here. Suppose my objective is to I mean, don't worry, guys. If you're not getting it this point of time, we're going to discuss about the pipelines in detail of each and every step in the coming classes. Okay, just for reference only here. Okay, so a build. This is also a build pipeline, and this is also a build pipeline. But this build pipeline objective is to compile the solution and publish the artifact. And this pipeline solution objective is I don't need to do any create the artifact. My purpose is to just copy the data from C data to D data. That's it.
Okay.
Here, I don't need to use the content of this repo also. But the condition here is in the Azure pipelines, you cannot create any pipeline without configuring a repo. So for time
Mm-hmm.
purpose, I mean for the temporary purpose, I have created the I have used the repo as a source. But my real objective is not like use something from here and to copy that. If you ask me in that case, what I would say like that, I mean in shortcut, what I would conclude in the shortcut is every pipeline, every pipeline basically, either it is build pipeline or release pipeline, is a enhanced version, is a enhanced version with various capabilities, every pipeline is an enhanced version of, yeah, let me complete this. Every pipeline is an enhanced version of task scheduler only. That's it, nothing much, with various capabilities. So in the Windows we have task scheduler, right? Let me show you here. So if I ask, I mean, if I go to here and if I go to create any new task, it'll be asking like create basic task, create task, import task. So if you create a basic task, if you want to copy the files from source to destination, you can use this task scheduler, right, to create a task. So the same capability will be executed by pipeline, but the possibility of implementing the solutions with the task scheduler is limited. But the possibility of implementing the solutions with the pipeline is limitless, basically. Hope everybody got an idea now. Every CI pipeline doesn't should I mean it's not mandatory that every CI pipeline should not or should be configured to produce an artifact only. Your pipelines can be created without producing artifact. Your pipelines can be created to aim with the aim to create the artifact also.
But Manikanta, in the real time, do we separately create pipelines for build and CA? So I think we combine them and we create the pipeline, right?
Yeah, I mean, build pipeline and CI pipeline are same. Build tool and build pipeline are different.
Yeah. But we're specifically discussing about CA pipeline, right?
Yeah,
So which is
I mean, CI pipeline also build pipeline. CI pipeline can be called as build pipeline,
yeah.
but build pipeline will be created with the help of the build tools. And the iterative point that what I can confirm here is every build
Mhm.
pipeline doesn't need to have a build tool.
Okay.
Example is this one only. In this
Okay.
example, we have not used any build tools,
Yeah.
but this is a build pipeline. And if I enable the CI trigger, then it is called CI pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
So it does mean that every CI pipeline or every build pipeline doesn't need to have a build tool as part of it. It's not mandatory unless until you are going
Yeah.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
may not be build tool, but it should have something to build, right? So in this case, we can say build tool will be PowerShell script, something like that. So we are copying it from somewhere
Uh,
to somewhere.
I mean, actually, the purpose of the build tool is to compile the solution. Copying or deleting or updating or renaming cannot be called as build actions actually.
Okay, then how do we get the artifacts? If you say this pipeline is a build tool, right? Build pipeline. So how
Yeah.
do we get the artifact without building, without doing some action?
Okay. If you want me to ask about the artifact here, I mean, if you want me to create the artifact here, I can do this.
Mhm.
What I will do is I'll click on this publish pipeline or publish build artifact basically. Okay. And obviously something I'm going to copy here should be mentioned like let me instead of PowerShell, let me add some other task like copy files. Well, if you ask me this one, so something like this is source from the repository I'm talking about. Okay, and I'll be mentioning like some D drive.
Mhm.
Then this D drive, obviously it is going to be executed on the an agent, right? So
Yeah.
what I will say like for this publish pipeline artifact, I'll be mentioning like that the path of the agent or the path of the repository file, something here. So this will be published to my artifact location.
Yeah.
So without having any build tool also, I'm able to publish the artifact. I'm able to create the artifact.
Okay. Yeah, build tool selection, it depends on the the task you do, right? So if at all you want
Exactly.
to generate, yeah, if at all you want to generate any
I mean,
artifact for
basically,
the
yeah. Let
for,
me be clear. Suppose you are using a build solution task. Whenever you are compiling the solution, or whenever you are building a solution, the end of the objective is to create a executable file, either an exe or either an MSI or either a binary executable file,
yeah.
right? And we wanted that output of this build solution to be able to pass it on to deployment stage. For that one, we'll be using publish artifact task to collect the output of the build solution and pass it to the uh, output. I mean the deployment pipeline input actually.
Okay.
Guys, whatever the questions those are asked by Praveen and Ramesh are very important to be able to answer in the interview. Please be focused here. I mean, don't worry if you are not able to understand the question and answers at this point of time. You are going to get time and we are going to discuss about the pipelines. Then definitely you should be able to answer the, I mean, you should be able to understand the questions. These questions actually. Okay. So let me get back to here. If somebody asks you what is the life cycle, I mean, what is the stepwise action of a CI pipeline? This one. I mean, don't worry. We are going to discuss about all these steps in the coming classes. For the just brief introduction I have given here. That's it. Okay. So if somebody asks you like what are the different CI tools that you have used in your project, you need to say like that: Azure Build Pipelines, Jenkins, Octopus. We have more, and I'll be sharing you the list in the coming classes. Okay. Then the question will be coming like, what do you? Why? I mean, what kind of tools you have used in the for the CD tools? Okay. The CD means not only continuous deployment. CD means not only continuous. Any idea? Simple answer. You don't need to do like this. Basically, CD stands for CD stands for. Can you go on mute, please? I think I can hear some voice. Yep. Okay. CD stands for continuous delivery or continuous deployment. Okay. In the market, whenever somebody say like that, what is the CI/CD tool that you are using? They will say like Azure pipelines, or will say like Jenkins, or will say like Octopus. So what exactly stands for is, what exactly CD stands for is continuous delivery or continuous deployment. So the question for you here is, or the notification for you here is, in which case you will call a pipeline, it is a continuous delivery pipeline. In which case you will call a pipeline continuous deployment pipeline. This is the most important question when you're going to deal with CD part. You should have a clear understanding in which case the deployment pipeline will be called as continuous delivery pipeline. In which case the deployment pipeline will be called as continuous deployment pipeline. The continuous deployment pipeline, the continuous delivery pipeline is completely different. All of you clear? So if you ask me about this one, the continuous deployment pipelines and continuous delivery pipelines, same answer. Azure release pipelines. Instead of build pipelines, you'll be using Azure release pipelines, and you can use Jenkins, and you can use Octopus, and etc. tools. In the market, there is a myth or there is a misconception that Jenkins is the build tool. No, Jenkins is a build pipeline. Jenkins is a CI pipeline. Jenkins is not a build tool. All of it clear? And Jenkins also can be used for CD pipelines. Jenkins also can be used for CI pipelines. Octopus also can be used for CI and CD operations. And for the release pipelines, for the CD part, we'll be using the Azure release pipelines. For the CI part, we'll be using the Azure build pipelines. All of it clear? Then uh, test plans. There's nothing to discuss about this one. Unless you are going to be a developer, you don't need to discuss about Azure test plans basically. But test plans, you can say like Azure test plans we have used. Okay, but one thing that you need to remember about test plans is how many types of how many types of tests will be tests are available basically. Then my answer is like first one is functionality test. Second one is unit test. Third one is third one is integration test. Fourth one is UI test. Okay, these are basically four categories basically, but we have more categories and etc. We have, but these are the basic kind of tests that will be executed as part of as part of the test plans in the Azure. So if you ask me about what are the components of the Azure test plans, I would say like test plans will be there, and the test plans will be created. The test plans will be having a subset of called test suites, and the test suites also are going to have a subset called test cases. The group of test cases will be called as test suite. The group of test suites will be called as test plans. Test plans. Okay. So if you ask me about how many kinds of testing we have, how many kinds of testing we have, I would say like manual testing and automation testing. For automation testing, the industry is using Selenium tool. I'm not sure about the manual testing because trust me, from the day one that I started my journey with the Azure DevOps till date, I didn't get a chance to deal with any kind of testing. So when your focus is about the this one like when you're targeting for any infrastructure Azure DevOps with infrastructure project or Azure DevOps for administration project, you don't need to worry about the testing part. And even though if you are part of the development project, DevOps for the development project also, you don't need to worry about the testing part because testing will be handled by the developers itself, developers and testers itself, and test leads and developer leads. There is no involvement of the, there is no necessity to deal more with the testing part as a DevOps engineer. But it will be good if you got a chance to know, or if you are going to know about the testing part. That's a good. That will be good for your career. It's a kind of added advantage only, but it's not a mandatory for a DevOps engineer. Okay, then they will be asking you like what exactly the artifact solutions, artifact tools you have used in your project. So as of my knowledge, and in up to today, I would say like we have basically two categories: Azure artifacts and JFrog is the artifact tools. and you can use SharePoint also, or you can use your file server also.
I think we can use Nexus also, Nexus artifact.
Yes, there is yes, Nexus also there. Forgot actually. And in the market we have more also, not only limited to this one. So these are the different artifact tools basically. I should not say SharePoint and file server as the artifact tools because these are the destination points. But this, the SharePoint and file server doesn't have the capabilities, doesn't have all the capabilities of exactly an artifact tool should have. But you can make use of your store point, SharePoint and file servers for the artifact storage purpose. And by default, these Azure artifacts or JFrog or Nexus also will be doing the storing of the artifacts only. But these are intelligent artifact tools, I would say. Compared to SharePoint and file server, these are called as intelligent artifact tools. So let me conclude the discussion here. Why exactly or what exactly forcing us to know about these different kind of tools of these different five sections or these different six sections? Simple answer. DevOps engineer, as DevOps is a culture, and the DevOps, this culture will be implemented by following a process with the help of the technologies by using some tools. So all these six sections of the working scope will be called as the DevOps engineer roles and responsibilities. So as you want to be a DevOps engineer, you should have an idea about which tool is using, which tool is used, which tool is being used for which kind of responsibility, and what kind of tool that you are going to use in your project. You should have this kind of basic funda, or you should have this kind of understanding about tools and technologies that you are going to discuss in your interview. The question will be there for sure. What kind of tools that you are using in your project for which kind of actions? So if they ask for build management, you need to say for this one. If they are asking you for version control, you need to say this tool you are using. Let me say, I won't should not say it's build management basically. Implement continuous integration. Implement continuous deployment or continuous delivery. So in the interview they may ask, can you tell me about the tools, or can you tell me about the tool stack, or can you tell me about the tech stack? All both are same. All three are same actually. Whatever the terminology they may use, we have to answer like this. All clear? Basically these sessions, whatever I'm taking today, yesterday, and day before yesterday, are will be taken at the end of the interview. End of the batch basically. But to get more understanding, and when we are going to discuss about the each and every tool, I wanted to give a brief on how exactly the interview would be in the real time. Clear, guys? All of you clear? Okay. So now you may have a question like, which kind of tools that you are going to use as part of our batch learning? Simple. All the ADO services. Like we're going to discuss about boards, we're going to discuss about repos, we're going to discuss about the pipelines, and we're going to discuss about the artifacts. And I'll be giving the introduction about the test plans. And the next question in the interview, as we are focusing for the infrastructure category, what are the scripting languages or what are the scripting tools you have used? If they ask you about the scripting languages, you can say like, I have used PowerShell and I have used CLI. And if they ask you about the scripting tools, you need to say either PowerShell ISE, or we are going to use VS Code. You need to say VS Code stands for Visual Studio Code. VS Code is a IDE, integrated development environment. Okay, and if they ask you like, what are the IAC the tools or IAC, yeah, IAC tools, sorry, IAC technology that you have used, technologies. So first of all, what exactly stands for IAC? IAC stands for infrastructure as code. So what technologies we have used? We are going to use ARM templates, and we are going to use Terraform templates, and we are going to use Bicep for a couple of practicals. Okay, and as I told you, the question that will be part of your interview is, what is the objective? I mean, uh, what is your project environment? So yesterday I told you like my project environment is like on-premise environment or cloud native environment or hybrid environment, right? So as part of on-premise environment, I mean, I'll be showing you like how to build pipelines for build pipelines. Not so sorry. If I say build, you'll refer as build pipeline only. Create pipelines for deploying the deploying the code deploying the code base into IIS servers. Basically, web servers for Windows environment. What I would say. So we are going to work on this one also as part of couple of practicals. So as part of cloud native environment, we are going to create pipelines for virtual machines, virtual networks, storage accounts, web apps, web apps. Mm, yep, those are enough at this stage. So obviously, if you ask me about the hybrid environment, I would say the combination of these two. So when you are done with this one, we are mostly done. And if time permits, I will be showing you create pipelines for Docker. Uh, Basically not Docker, ACR and AKS also. If you ask me about what exactly stands for ACR, Azure Container Registry. And if you ask me about AKS, I'll say Azure Kubernetes Services. Mostly I'll be showing you, not time permits, mostly. But at the almost like last week of the batch. Okay. Now there is another question about the interview. Tell me something. Tell me something about the differences. The differences that you know about the revolution revolution in IT administration. So then your focus should be discussing about four environments basically, four kind of revolutions. So in the initial days of the IT administration or in the initial days of the software industry, we were using only on-premises services. Then later we got an option to implement the services in the virtualization. Then we got an option to implement the cloud. Now the fourth one is containerized. So then the question is, can you say four? Basically you should not say four, only three, based on the based on the accessibility of the resources. You should say only three, but based on the platform of implementation, then you have to say on-premise machine, basically not on-premises, physical machine or physical system, whatever it is. Then virtual machine, then containers, containerized. This is called accessibility and this is called implementation. Both are different. I would say this was this. So what exactly stands for the difference between accessibility and implementation? Simple. If you are creating a resource to achieve something and you're targeting about the implementation, that's called implementation area. And if you're targeting about the accessibility of the implementation, then that's called environment. Like this. Okay, as I told you in the initial classes, physical machines were completely in the control of the who administered the machines. In the virtualization, machines will not be touchable, but the resources can be used. So in the physical, when we were in the era of the physical machines, actually, we were creating only one. We were installing only one or two OS. I mean, only one OS per one machine. Later, it came like two OSs can be used if we divide the hard disk into C drive and D drive. Later, we got the technology. I mean, the technology got evaluated. Like on one server, you can configure 10 servers with the help of the disk only. Without the help of the disk, you cannot use. So, but to implement the virtualization mechanism, we have not taken the or we have not considered the help with the disk only. we have taken the we have considered the resources like CPU frequency and RAM and storage also. But the later we got a technology that we don't, even though when you are creating a VM, even though when you're creating couple of VMs or number of VMs on a physical server, we observe like that in the VM, suppose we allocated 100 GB for a VM, then we observed like for hosting one application, we are allocating 100 GB, but still for the application maintenance, we are using only 40% of the resources of the VM. So the industry felt like that. So this is not the right way, or this is not the efficient way. That how can you use the resources of a virtual machine or of a physical machine? Then the industry found a point, or the industry invented a, industry discovered a point like that. No, we don't need to create virtual machines on top of the physical machine at any cost to make it utilized at the 100% or 80%. And the industry found a point, or the industry discovered a point like that we can make use of the help of the operating system kernel on the physical machine itself, so that we can use them for the building the applications. And that's how a concept came called containers. We are going to discuss about all these 3 points more in the coming classes. This is brief how exactly the resources implementation has been evaluated in the industry is physical machines, then virtual machines, then containerized. Now the industry era is container industry. It started actually. It's not completed. It's not completely implemented yet. Out of the, I would say like out of 100 companies in the market, only 10 to 15% companies out of 100%, only 10 to 15 companies are using containerized or containerized applications. But by 2025, it will be like 65 to 70% as per the uh, market expectations. 65 to 70% companies will be using will be using containerized applications. And the bitter truth is, by 2024, by 2024 or 2025, a person who has knowledge on either, knowledge on only one cloud will have less opportunities in the market. In the market, a person who has knowledge on at least two clouds will have more, and will have a person who have knowledge on multiple clouds, that means more than two clouds, will grab the opportunities. So what I would say is, being a DevOps engineer, Azure DevOps or DevOps engineer, whatever it is, being a DevOps engineer with the Azure DevOps or with the traditional DevOps, if you are building your capability, if you are ready to build your capability, build your capability to deal with multi-cloud by 2025. You are going to be king for sure, for at least till 2030. Your life is secured, your future is secured in the IT industry. So what exactly my intention here is, as you are learning Azure DevOps right now, try to invest your time, try to utilize your time in learning Azure Cloud, AWS Cloud and GCP Cloud also. Not at the same time, but after 6 months you can start about the AWS, and after 6 months you can start about the GCP. Okay, I mean, for one of the example that I know, personally known actually, this example. There is one candidate who has there is one candidate who has 13 lakhs in 2017. He was he was having only Azure infra experience. Okay, and now he is certified. Now he is certified in AWS, Azure, GCP, and Kubernetes. And now he is working for a product based company. He is working for a product based company. Can you guess the CTC? Now itself, not about 2025 something. Now itself, will be shocked. His CTC is 79 lakhs and working as multi-cloud architect with DevOps knowledge. I mean DevOps experience in 2021 June itself, not now. So, I mean, why are you? You can ask me why are you saying these figures? I'm not. It doesn't. It's not my intention like that. Uh, Something else. My intention is to show you the real time. I mean, show you the real scenario of opportunities in the market. And currently, he is working within India only. Not he is at onset. That is the scope of the cloud, and that is the scope of the DevOps with multi-cloud. Now itself. And if you ask me, you may feel like that his experience is something like 20 years. No, his experience is 12 years. Just 12 years. The market is ready to give whatever you want, but you should satisfy. That's it. Just 12 years experience. I mean, without his permission, I should not reveal his name. That's why. Okay. Awareness purpose only I told this. And he is personally known to me, my friend, in one of the company. I mean, we have worked together. All of you clear? Are any questions? So from Monday, our journey starts. I mean, the next would be, let me tell you the execution of the classes from the next week. Like, we are going to create the resources in Azure resource creation, if you ask me about the Azure scope, like first day would be VNet creation, second day would be VM creation, third day would be storage account creation, fourth day would be web apps creation. Okay, this is the first funda. And if you ask me about how exactly, we are going to, first week will be with UI mode. That means in the Azure portal. I mean, you may have a idea, or you may have a confusion or idea like what you are going to learn with the UI mode creation. No, we are going to discuss about each and every concept that is involved with this creation in the real-time scenarios, with the real-time practicals. Okay, then we are going to create this with PowerShell. Same with PowerShell. The next week. Okay, next next with ARM templates. Next with Terraform templates. Next with Bicep. Okay, and this is about the Azure part. If you ask me about the Azure part, no, sorry, Azure DevOps part. If you ask me about the Azure DevOps part, exploration of ADO services and implementation of ADO services, ADO strategies, ADO strategies for developer project, development project, and for cloud native resources provision, basically cloud administration project. And the next, automation project. So if you ask me about the development project, primarily we are going to focus on the .NET applications. All of it clear? One thing I wanted to make it clear, like learning Azure DevOps with practical scenarios is not at all equal to or not at all similar to Azure Administrator. There is a difference. Azure Administration, Azure Administrator with Azure DevOps is very less probability, whereas Azure DevOps, Azure DevOps for Azure Cloud is completely different. If you ask me about the difference, Azure DevOps for Azure Cloud is like Azure DevOps for Azure administration and Azure DevOps for Azure developer activities. Okay, and I have heard like that. I also was in the initial days of the learning with cloud. I was also in the confused state, like Maybe it's not required for you, but I'm telling you. Okay. Azure developer. Do you feel similar like me that Azure developer and developer with Azure, development with Azure are same? If you ask me the answer, both are not same. No. Development with Azure is development with Azure is taking the benefits of the Azure resources. We are going to development, or we are going to develop the applications or the products, whatever it is. Azure developer is who is working on enhancement of the Azure. So I mean, you may have a doubt why exactly we are discussing about this one. The terminology or the English words that you are using will change the purpose of the understanding basically. That's why I mentioned about this one. The market may feel like Azure developer. No, Azure developer is different. Development with Azure is different. So basically, what I will say like development with Azure resources. You should have a clarity and you should have a clear understanding on the technical terms or the product based terminologies or the names while you are dealing in interview, dealing with a person in interview, or discussing about a person, with a person in the interview or outside also. Hope you're clear, right guys? And once we are done with this one, then we are going to discuss about the Docker and Dockers and I mean basically ACR and AKS. So if you know about ACR and AKS and all these things, when you enter in the market with at least 2 to 3 years experience, your package will be 10 plus for sure. 10 plus for sure. But terms and conditions apply. You should be able to discuss efficiently in the interview. You should be able to explain about your project in the interview. You should be able to communicate your thoughts with the interviewer in an efficient manner and effective manner. Don't ask me like that if you don't do any of these 3 parameters in a better way with the interviewer. Don't ask me that why didn't I get that package. You need to do practice. Simple answer. At least with 10 plus that I can guarantee because of the current market in the industry. Any questions, guys? Okay. And one thing that I would like to introduce to you today is about this one actually. One clarification that I wanted to give today for today's session. Settings, those are available in the organization profile, and settings, those are available in the project profile. will have different scope. Okay, and same answer, same point. Settings those are available in the organization profile and settings that are available in the project profile will not be same always. Okay, then one point to understand from these 2 points is scope. Settings at org profile scope is Azure DevOps organization, and settings at project profile scope is Azure DevOps project only. And basically it's a clear idea, but I just wanted to reiterate. That's it. Okay, so let me show you something. Can you see anything? Let me come like this better. One minute, let me get my charges. Yeah, so can you see the settings at the project level under the general category are same at the organization level? No, right? Under the boards, the simple answer, at the project level the settings will be related to ADO services, boards, pipelines, repos, artifacts and tests. And settings at the ADO level, organization level, will be on the kind of common parameters like ADO general settings, ADO security related, ADO pipelines related, ADO boards related, and ADO repos and artifacts. So you may have a confusion or you may have a conclusion that under the project also we have pipelines, repos, artifacts, test and boards. Under the organization also we have settings related to boards, pipelines, repos and artifacts. The settings at the organization for these ADO services is completely different. At the settings at the ADO services at the project level is completely different. The main thing, the difference between both settings is this one, this word. Scope will be different. All of it clear? Okay. And I think I forgot to tell you about one more thing, that all of you guys please install this tool, Postman. If I forgot, we are going to do some couple of scenarios. Basically the activity which will make you different from other persons who are attending in the interview. I will help you. I will explain about couple of scenarios with the practical approach only, about how to deal or how to manage Azure DevOps with the help of Azure DevOps, not Azure, basically REST API. This will definitely make you special in the interview, because dealing with REST API basically is a kind of capability of the developers, but I have some tips, and basically those are taught to me, those are shared with me by my one of the colleague actually, but I'll share it with you. With this help of these tips, I learned Azure DevOps in an efficient manner. So I'm going to share it with you also. How to make use of REST API for Azure DevOps for the better management of the or the better administration of the Azure DevOps. When you're going to be a good Azure DevOps administrator. All of it clear? Okay. And one thing, let me start for today itself. In the interview, they will ask you a question. How do you establish how do you establish integration with any other cloud or any other products, basically softwares, to meet the requirement of implementation or implementing a DevOps culture for one of the scenario. The answer is simple: using service connections in the Azure project settings. I mean, don't feel like that I'm telling everything today. Basically, if we discuss like this, you're going to get something in the coming classes. Okay, service connections is the heart when you want to integrate your Azure DevOps with any kind of other cloud or any kind of other softwares. So let me show you where exactly we'll find it under the pipelines. So with the help of the service connections, you can establish integration or you can implement communication between your Azure DevOps and Azure, Azure DevOps and GCP, Azure DevOps and AWS, Azure DevOps and Linux, Azure DevOps and SonarQube, Azure DevOps and Veracode. So let me tell you something here. In the yesterday discussion or day before discussion, we have discussed about code coverage or code quality or code scanning, those things, right? For all these things, most of the companies will use a product called SonarQube. Okay, and for application security, couple of companies will use a product called Veracode, or you can make use of Qualys also, but Veracode will be used. Okay, and when you want to be a perfect and good Azure DevOps engineer or the system administrator, you need to know about two more words. Like I told you about the compliance, right? Compliance. You need to know about vulnerability also. I mean, I'll be explaining about these terminologies. These are a couple of terminologies that you should remember: SOP and vulnerability, SOP, compliance. You need to know about what exactly non-compliance also, obviously. Okay, these terminologies are on the ground common sectors actually. Okay, when you want to discuss about the Azure DevOps related, there will be one question: which kind of or what is which kind of or what is the project framework that you are using in your project. I mean, we are going to discuss about this concept in coming classes almost like 3 to 4 times, but I'm just introducing you at this point of time. So currently in the market, we have couple of project frameworks. Those are called as Agile, or those are called as Scrum, or some projects are using like Kanban, and some projects will use XP. This can be called as project framework or project methodology or delivery model also sometimes. Agile, Scrum, Kanban, XP. And in the industry, most of the companies will use Agile or Scrum. And some companies will use Kanban also. It depends on the. So you can ask me a question. Who will define that what to be used? Simple answer. Discussion between project manager, project manager, product owner, and Scrum Master will finalize which one to be used, which project framework or project methodology, sorry, or delivery model that need to be used in the project. Again, I'm telling, to get succeed in the interview and to get succeed in your real-time project, when you're part of the project, your terminology, I mean the terminology about the technology, or the terminology about the implementation, or the terminology about the process, or the terminology about the project will definitely make you special in the team. All of it clear? Any questions, guys? Now the session is open for questions. I'm stopping the recording.